you're a high school football recruit that's been working harder than everyone else, but your 40 won't budge and you see less talented guys getting more D1 offers than you, it's not because you're not good enough. It's because you're missing out on one of four key things, and I'm about to show you what they are right now. I'm Jacob Hansen, and I went from running a 5 flat at camps to running a 4.6 and going D1, and I didn't have any stars, and I was only a 5'11 linebacker. And I've used this exact framework to help 60 athletes drop their 40 to earn D1 scholarships. And over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to break down the EDGE framework, which is the only 4 steps between you and your fastest 40 of your life that college coaches will actually respect. It was the biggest difference from me running a 5 flat at camps to dropping my 40 to a 4.63 and running 22 miles per hour in game. And by the end, you're going to understand exactly why you're stuck and what needs to change. But first, you need to understand why the old way doesn't work anymore. Because if you keep doing what everyone else is doing, thinking exposure is the problem, doing more training, more camps, more 7-on-7, and thinking hard work alone will get you offers, you're going to keep getting the same results as everyone else too. The problem isn't your talent or effort. You need a way to drop your 40 to make sure that speed shows up at camps and can turn into real offers. Speed training has changed because 15 years ago, everyone thought more sprints would get you faster, and to some extent, it did. Today, there are thousands of athletes with years of advanced training experience fighting for less spots because roster limits just cut 3,000 FBS spots, and it's more competitive than ever, meaning it's now even harder to earn offers. And you have a less than 2% chance of getting a football scholarship, and spots are filled with each day that passes. But if you understand these 4 steps, you can drop tenths off your 40 and earn offers just like I did. So let's take it back to 2023 when I was at IMG Academy, and I thought that transferring there would be the magic ticket to D1, but soon I realized that it would take a lot more than that. So I decided to study hundreds of recruits, making it to the next level, and even then, what would get them to the NFL, and a pattern started to emerge to me. There were a lot of extremely talented guys where the 40-yard dash was their make or break moment. Let's take John Ross, for example. He was projected a late first-round draft pick. And for some context, the average receiver's 40 was about a 4.49, and Ross shaved just 0.2 seconds off of that, running a 4.22, and that was the fastest 40 at that time, giving him an impressive boost in his draft stock and an even more impressive extra $9 million secured in his rookie contract. But during my research, I found way more guys losing out on millions of dollars by running a slow 40, even when they were dominant on the field. Look at Orlando Brown Jr., for example. He was projected a top 10 overall pick and ran an abysmal 5.85, causing him to drop to the 83rd overall pick and losing out on over $20 million that he would have made if he simply ran a better 40. And for Monte Teo, he was also projected a top 10 pick, but ran a 4.82 as a linebacker that slid him down to the second round, losing him over $11 million. And the thing is, whatever 40 time you run, it's now plastered across your chest for every coach to see, and often that's the make or break metric for football players because the 40-yard dash has been the benchmark of performance for decades and is honestly the rite of passage to the next level. And still the exact same high-stake 40-yard dash happening for NFL players, that same process is happening for you trying to land D1 offers. And this has only gotten worse every year with coaches taking less high school recruits because of the crazy transfer portal, causing over 6,700 D1 recruits to enter the transfer portal just this last season. And that means it was stealing opportunities from high school recruits, which pissed me off because colleges would rather take a guy who proves he can run fast than a kid who's still developing. And that now means fewer chances, less patience from coaches, and almost no margin for error when you're trying to make it to a D1 level. High school recruits, really, they're not being evaluated on potential. They're being filtered out faster than ever. If you don't hit the speed benchmark, the coach is not going to wait. They move on to someone else who is already checking the box. And that's why the 40-yard dash has never mattered more. So I took things into my own hands and I reverse engineered why these recruits were getting serious college looks in the process of these recruits getting any offer that they wanted. And it wasn't talent. It was something that nobody was talking about. And I realized what separated me from these guys getting D1 offers was it was easy for a coach to see a 4.5 40, but it was hard for them to see a kid who could make plays on Friday Night Lights without pads on. And it wasn't they worked harder, their speed just showed up when it mattered, and coaches only cared about one number, not how hard I actually worked. And then finally, speed creates instant trust. Coaches knew if you ran a fast 40, he was dominating on Friday nights, and those eyeballs naturally turned into conversations and offers. So I boiled it down into 4 steps any recruit with varsity film can use to position themselves as an offer worthy athlete. So, how does this actually work? We start with ingraining elite habits that feel easy and effortless so intense work stops feeling like friction. And if your identity isn't aligned with your goals, consistency is going to break under pressure. That's why we install repeatable mental frameworks and daily cues that shape decisions automatically, really the same way that elite athletes think and operate. And if your mind isn't in alignment, then you will always be leaving potential on the table, meaning your hard work is going to go to waste. Once you ingrain elite habits, then you need to figure out what's actually slowing you down. If you try to fix everything at once, nothing actually changes. And for myself, I tried to throw every advanced drill in my training for months on end. And guess what? My 40 never budged. What changed though was directing my training to one limiter at a time. I changed my training so technique cues progressed slowly so nothing broke down with my new higher speeds. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you my exact strategy. But that's when I finally dropped my 40 from a 501 to a 463, and now I'm doing the exact same with my athletes. And now that you've directed your training around your limiter, you know your 40 doesn't mean anything unless it's in front of college coaches. And not to mention, you only get 2 shots per camp to make it work. And remember Orlando Brown Jr.? You don't want to end up like him. But the thing was, I could run 4.8s in training, but at camps, under pressure, I'd tighten up. I'd run a 4.95, I'd run a 5.01, nothing good enough to actually get me offered. But you need a way to translate your speed from training to camps without adding extra workouts to your plate. You need to know how to visualize your 40 so you can get mental reps without straining your body, how to master all of the combine drills, and how to run a consistent 40 time so you can spring yourself up to the top of the recruiting boards with your blazing 40 time. Now that you can generate the speed under pressure, the next step is keeping your body available. Because if you've ever trained hard for months just to pull your hamstring a week before camp, you'd know what I'm talking about. Because you don't get offers if you run a subpar 40 because your body is exhausted. You need sessions designed to optimize your body for speed at the start and then deload and prime yourself for the next session at the end. So you can stay primed to run your fastest 40 at camp and earn the offers that you deserve. But how does all this actually work? That leads us to our first step, which is what I call your identity driver. And it's how you can make running your fastest 40 easy. And it's the first foundational step we help out athletes with. Think of it like building a house. If your foundation is weak, right, your habits are inconsistent, your effort depends on your motivation, and pressure exposes your weakness, the whole thing collapses. But when you stack each layer correctly, your identity, your habits, your emotions under pressure, you can build a mansion. And through the 14-day mindset kickstart, you begin to think like a D1 athlete before you're ever on that stage. And with daily question framing, like, what would the D1 version of myself do right now? And that's how intense work stops feeling like friction and you can stand above every other recruit before camps even start, making it easy for coaches to identify and evaluate you. And then that's where the limiter protocol comes in. I built it because when I first started training for camps, I tried to improve everything at once and assumed that effort alone would be enough to drop my 40. But if you're watching this, you know the 40-yard dash means everything to coaches. And the athlete with an electric 40-yard dash will get more offers than the talented player with a slow 40-yard dash. But the problem is, athletes try to fix every part of their 40 at once, and it will lead to overtraining and their 40 won't budge. Not to mention, typical training will leave athletes' bodies wrecked going into camps, even with a few days rest. Also, coaches won't even look your way if you don't hit their 40 benchmark. But that also means if you train the right way, 40-yard dash and combine prep can be one of the most powerful tools for getting noticed by college coaches, and not many actually do it right. One of the most important parts is the training must be intentional to focus on one limiter. Each session focuses on one limiter at a time with progressive technique cues that improve speed without hitting a plateau. And when we implemented this for one of our athletes, Luke, he dropped 0.12 seconds off his 40 in just a couple weeks. And I was able to drop 0.35 seconds off my 40 in just 4 months. But for this to work, it's for athletes who have already been training seriously and been evaluated in front of college coaches. So if that isn't for you, you can click off this video right now. Now that we only have serious football recruits in here, I want to talk about the speed expression engine. Because the thing is, none of this matters if you can't run your fastest 40 at camp, and that's where the speed expression engine takes charge. And in just 5 steps, it helps you run your fastest 40-yard dash through learning how to mentally prepare exactly for what the perfect 40 looks like, how to use mental reps and visualization to get hundreds of reps before you show up, how to run your fastest 40 under pressure so waiting around, watching others run, and limited attempts don't sabotage your time, and how to build repeatable execution so consistency is a standard. Then finally, how to prepare 24 to 48 hours before to guarantee you'll run your fastest 40 time. But here's the part that most speed trainers ignore. You can have the right mindset, you can have the fast 40, but if you can't handle the stress of training, none of it matters. That's why every phase is built with what I call the stress buffer. Not recovery, but a way to train hard without breaking down. The stress buffer is how you structure training so that your body stays available while intensity goes up. And it solves 3 problems at once. First, it prepares your body before high intensity speed work, medicine ball work, and specific warm-up progressions are the standard here. Second, it controls how stress is handled during the session. We use intentional isometric work to build up tissue resilience, protect joints under load, and allow your body to adapt to the actual straining stimulus. Finally, it brings your system back down after sessions into a recovery mode to keep you sharp for the next session. And when you pull all these things together, that's when you start to realize that each layer funnels into the next. The identity driver, the limiter protocol, speed expression engine into the stress buffer, camps, and offers, which is actually built on your habits, your speed training, visualization, regulating your training, your 40-yard dash, your offers, and then your commitment. And it's exactly how not only our athletes have dropped over 0.2 seconds off their 40, but also landed offers and commitments. And the main thing that I do want to stress here is that this process has worked time and time again. Like for my man Drew, he was able to drop 0.21 off his 40 in just 10 weeks. I was actually able to meet up with him in person at one of his track meets. And the thing is, he got so fast that he was actually able to run collegiate track. And then for Kali, he actually dropped 0.22 off his 40, 0.24 off his 5:10.5. And the biggest thing for him was the stress buffer because he was never able to stay healthy in training. But once he figured all this out, he took a bet on himself, won a JUCO national championship, and is going to be walking on at a Big Ten school this fall. Then for my man Luke, he dropped 0.12 seconds off his 40 in 5 weeks of real training while gaining 6 pounds of muscle and earning 8 offers, so he's going to have a fun time in a couple months here picking out what school he wants to go to. And for my man Landon, it was the most explosive he's ever felt, and he hit his first dunk being under 6 feet tall, and he's setting himself up to make a real impact as a true freshman in college. And for Max, he was able to drop 0.12 off his 40, 0.6 off his 100 meter, and he was actually able to make it to the state track meet. But for my man Danny, he only dropped 0.08 off his 40 in 10 weeks, but in the process gained 23 pounds of muscle, and this allowed him to immediately come into a D1 college as a true freshman and make a name for himself. Luke dropped 0.22 off his 40, added 6 inches to his vertical, 7 inches to his broad, and has been picking up some serious power 4 interests. My man Alex is the most explosive he's felt, and he's earned over 15 offers as an all-state DB, and the crazy part is, he actually earned a D2 offer to play lacrosse and football. Aiden added 14 inches to his broad and 8 inches to his vert while being the strongest he's ever been. For Yar, he actually dropped a 10.8 100 meter, a school record 400 meter, and we actually set him up so when he got to college, he recorded an interception as a true freshman. For my man Andrew, we absolutely crushed his athleticism and strength plateaus, and we built such a strong relationship, he actually drove 2 hours to come watch me play. And not only that, I have plenty of other athletes doing the exact same thing. And overall, I can credit this system to dropping dozens of seconds off 40-yard dashes between my athletes and I, meaning it's the most effective way to drop your 40-yard dash and earn collegiate offers. And all these steps work right now in today's football recruiting landscape, and for those of you who are serious about playing college football, if you want to avoid the guesswork of training and preparing to dominate at camps, and you want to drop 0.2 seconds off your 40 to help you land offers with this entire camp and recruiting process that you only really get one shot at to determine the future of your football career, I have something for you. All these people are part of my community called Scholarship Speed System, where we do all this for you and hold your hand through the entire process. We're going to work with you one-on-one to implement your identity driver, your limited protocol, the speed expression engine, and your stress buffer, and we'll work with you until you drop a minimum of 0.2 seconds off your 40 or what you're satisfied with. Obviously, it's still going to take work, but it's a much more straightforward process and stress-free experience than trying to do it on your own. Ultimately, this isn't for everyone though. To be eligible, you need to have varsity film, you and your family need to believe in your ability, so you've probably done other serious training or 7-on-7 before, and you've been evaluated in front of college coaches. And obviously, when opportunities come your way like camps and visits, you have to be ready and financially able to travel to those and maximize those opportunities. If you're interested and you think you'd be a good fit, then there's a link in the description below to book a call with me and see if we can help.